Humboldt County families to Kids Create. My name is Virginia Wood. I'm an artist and educator living in Humboldt County. Today I'm going to teach you a few drawing techniques for how to draw animals. I'll be teaching you how to draw animals today because the Friends of the Redwood Libraries would like to invite you to participate in their 2022 Children's Art Calendar Contest. The Friends of the Redwood Libraries Art Calendar Contest is open to kids ages 5 through 12. The theme this year is my favorite story animal. That's why I'll be teaching you how to draw animals today. Your animal book characters can be real or imaginary. You can use crayon, paint, ink, cutouts, and whatever else you wish for your piece of artwork. You can enter up to 3 pictures in the contest. The deadline to submit your drawings is Monday, August 2nd, 2021. You can submit your artwork either by mail or email. You can find contest guidelines, calendar application, and where to submit your artwork at the Friends of the Redwood Libraries website. That website is https://www.eurekafrl.org/calendar/. Everyone who enters receives a gift certificate to the Serendipity bookstore upstairs in the Eureka Main Library. It will be open again. Be creative and use lots of bright colors. The Friends of the Redwood Libraries would like to encourage you not to copy a picture, but to use your imagination. And there won't be a need for copying because I'm going to give you 3 different techniques for how to draw an animal today. For today's project, you will need a pencil, a sheet of blank paper, something to color in with. This could be colored pencils, markers, crayons, cut paper, paint, or anything else you want to use. You'll also want to grab your favorite animal storybook. We'll look at the pictures as we draw. I'm going to present 3 different techniques for how to draw an animal, and then I will show you how to combine all 3 techniques in a drawing of my own. So the first technique when you want to draw an animal is to use your finger or pencil to trace over your shapes. Many of you will have done this in your elementary school classrooms, tracing over letters or numbers. We're going to do the same thing with your drawing today. We're going to do this because your muscles have a memory of their own. Tracing over the shapes of your character before you draw it out will teach your hand how to make the shapes and lines needed. Your hand's muscles have their own memory, and they'll remember the motion that you're making as you trace over when you pick up your pencil and begin to draw. The second technique is find and draw the shapes in your animal. When I model this for you, I'll show you that after we find and draw our shapes, you'll go back over your entire animal and smooth out and connect the lines and shapes. I've included the mouse from If You Give a Mouse a Cookie on my slide here. And I just want to show the shapes that we can use to make up this mouse. So I got started by putting a rectangle over his leg. What shape do you think the body is? What shape would you draw for just the body? I think it's an oval. I'm going to go ahead and pull the oval shape over on top of the picture of the mouse's body. I'm going to use the other rectangle for his leg. I'm going to pull that over. It will overlap my oval for the body, and that's okay. What shape do you think we need for the head? What shape would you draw? You may have said circle. I'm going to bring the circle over on top of the mouse's head. And now we need to draw or find a shape for the mouse's ear. I have 2 shapes left on my slide, a raindrop and a triangle. We will all see a little bit different shapes when we look at our animals. Some of us might see a square for a body where others see an oval, and that's okay. So the mouse's ears could be either the triangle, which I'll pull the triangle shape over and lay it on top of the mouse's ear, or it could be this raindrop shape. I'll pull that over and put it on his other ear. So we can see that this mouse that looked a little bit complicated is really just made up out of geometric shapes we already know and have learned in school. I've also included on this slide a picture of a cat. We can see that there's a circle laid over the picture of the cat's head. There's triangles laid over the ears, a long rectangle for the leg, with a circle or an oval for the foot. So again, just looking at the picture of the animal and trying to find the shapes inside of it. My last example here is an owl. I have a picture with no shapes on it, and then over here what shapes I thought would go on it. So I laid a circle over the owl's head, an oval over the owl's body, and a triangle over the owl's tail feather. Again, later we'll go back and connect them. My third technique for drawing animals is say what you will draw next out loud. Use descriptive words as you draw. For example, you might say, I am making a strong curve in toward my circle. Now I'm drawing a short straight line away from the circle. I've included a few descriptive words you might want to use as you're drawing here. You could think about lines as thin lines or thick lines. You might describe your line as short or long. You might have curved lines or straight lines. The direction of the line might be going down, up, away from, or towards something. So let's get started looking at Frederick by Leo Leone. I'm going to draw Frederick using these three techniques. Again, the first thing we want to do is trace over the character with our finger. I'm going to start by just tracing Frederick's body because I want my hand to remember the shape of Frederick's body. I'm going to trace over it with my finger several times before I pick up my pencil and draw the shape for Frederick's body by hand. I'm also looking at Frederick's body and asking myself, what shapes do I see? What shape is the body? What shape are the ears? What shape are the eyes? What shape is the tail? I'm going to draw the tail next, and I'm going to use the third technique of saying what I'm drawing before I draw it as I go along. So I'm going to start with the tail. I put my pencil down on Frederick's line of his body. I'm going to make a strong curved line out away from the body, and then a strong curved line in towards the body, making a shape that's like a little triangle, like a long, skinny, curved triangle. Next, I'm going to go ahead and draw Frederick's ears. I think that they're kind of a raindrop shape, even more than oval. I'll start by tracing over them with my finger a few times. And after I feel comfy with the shape that I've traced over enough times with my finger, I'll use my pencil on my own drawing to add that raindrop shape of Frederick's ear into my drawing. And then I'm looking at Frederick's eyes, asking myself, what shape do I think they are? I think they're a circle or maybe an oval. You could trace over it with your finger. And then when I bring my pencil back over, I see that his eyelid is pretty much touching the bottom of his ear. So I'm going to start talking out loud to myself and say, I need a curved line right underneath the curve of the ear that comes around into a circle. I see that the top part of Frederick's eye is a half circle, or that I need a straight line across the eye. And I see that Frederick has a great big black circle, half circle, semicircle for a pupil. I'm going to draw that just underneath that straight line for the eyelid. You can color in if you like. And then I'm going to draw a second eye over next to that one. Again, it's almost touching his other ear. If you make a mistake or you don't like your shape, that's okay. That's part of the drawing process. You can always grab an eraser and take things out. It takes practice in our drawing, and so we should expect to have to redraw things sometimes as we practice and get better. Okay, I'm going to trace back over his eye with my finger. There we go. That really helped me to get the shape of the eye. Now that I have the oval or circle for the outside of the eye, I'm going to put the line in for his eyelid. Draw the semicircle for the pupil underneath the eyelid inside my circle. And there's the beginning of my Frederick. I'm going to wait to add a mouth in for just another moment. Next, I want to model this strategy for you one more time with Leo the Late Bloomer, a story by Robert Krause. So Frederick had very distinguished shapes. It was easy to see that his body was an oval. But Leo is not so clear. So let's think about what shapes do we see in the Leo. I'm going to start with the body. Remember, if you're drawing your own character at home, to trace over with your finger and then ask yourself, what shape is the body? I think the body is a good place to start our drawing. I think that Leo's body looks like an oval. And that this oval is kind of tilted to one side in this drawing that I'm looking at. Almost like an egg tipping over. Next, I want to think about what shape is Leo's head. I think it's also kind of like an oval, and this oval is going in the opposite direction of the body. So I'm going to start with a curved line, again, talking to myself about what I'm drawing, curving all the way around into an oval. Now I have a nice oval for the body. It's overlapping an oval the other direction for the head. When I look at Leo, I'm also noticing that his head is quite a bit smaller than his body. Although we might want to come back in and make this smaller. Part of being an artist is problem solving. Another part is making those observations, to look carefully at what we're drawing and say, is the head bigger or smaller? What shape is it? Again, don't be shy to use your eraser. If there's a line, shape, or mark that you don't think fits your drawing well. Now that I have Leo's head and body drawn in, I'm going to go ahead and do the tail. So right off the back of this oval for the body, I'm going to talk to myself as I draw it. It would be hard to say a shape for the tail. Maybe it's a rectangle, but it curves a lot at the end. So I'm going to use the technique where I talk out loud. So right off the end of the oval of the body, I curve down, and then I see the tail curves back up for quite a ways before it comes down and makes a curve at the tip of the tail. And then it comes back up, makes a big curve, and it's following that curve of my top line perfectly. And finally, I touched back to the line of the body. Now for Leo's leg, what shape do you think his back leg is? I think that the back leg is actually a different shape than the two front legs. I see the back leg as kind of an oval. So again, I'm going to touch the oval for the body so that the leg will be connected. Bring my pencil up into a curve. I'm going to make a really strong curve, almost like I'm going to write a letter O. Before I come back down, curving the other direction. And for right now, I'm not going to worry about Leo's toes. I'm just going to make a curved line for the foot coming back towards the body. That line curves in at the back of the paw and then back down and round into the thigh. And I think the two front legs are rectangles. So inside, I'll start inside my oval, drawing a rectangle coming out of the oval for one leg. And a rectangle starting at the line of the oval, coming out for the back leg. Just draw out my rectangle. Now I have some pretty good shapes to start my Leo drawing now. Now I want to go back and connect some of these lines. So I go start any place on your drawing your hand feels comfy and trace over the line, trying to kind of smooth it out and connect it. So as I come up the tail into the body, that's all smooth, but look, the oval of the head, where it overlaps the oval of the body, doesn't look like it goes together. So I'm going to make a curved line. I'm going to curve out from the body up into the head till that line touches the head. So taking my line right off the back of the oval of the body, curving out until I'm touching and coming back into the head. Just continuing around the head. Now I'm back to where the body is. I need another little curved line to help smooth this out. And I'll do the same thing for the legs. Now I can kind of round these lines out a little bit for the paw. When I come down to the rectangle of the next leg, I'm going to round the end of the rectangle for the paw. And as I come back to the body here, I'm making a curved line to connect the leg to the body. So where the body parts connect, there's usually a bit of a curved line to connect them. Now, if I don't want some of these lines, like this part of the oval for the body that's going up into the head, we wouldn't see that part of the body. Now that's just his head. So I'm going to erase my line at the top of the body out of the inside of the oval for the head, and continue doing that in other areas where your lines were overlapping. They might not make sense now that you've connected the whole drawing, or might be making the drawing look less realistic. So part of connecting is to take out lines that are dividing parts of the body away from each other. Okay. And now I have a pretty good shape for Leo. I'm going to erase the lines of the rectangles that I drew for his legs that are inside the body so that the legs will just look connected here. All right, you're doing a great job. Next, I want to think about expressive facial features for your animal. So I've included here some different expressive eyes for you to choose from. I'll say that any of the facial features could be a shape. For example, these eyes here are an oval. They're an enclosed space, and then they have the eyelid line and the pupil drawn inside, but they are a shape. Other eyes are just lines. If we look over here to this other set of eyes on the screen, These are just lines here. These closed eyes are just a curved line to show the closed eye. So there are a lot of different shapes and lines we can choose for eyes. So for Leo, I've added in these eyes that are kind of a football shape. I'm adding a line that goes across uh, almost down at my bottom line. So I'm adding a curved line for the eyelid that's sitting just above the curved line at the bottom of the eye to show that Leo's eyes are just a little bit open. Maybe he's looking at the ground, looking away, he looks shy. It will be your choice if you want to add a pupil in. I'm just going to lightly shade the eyelids so that we can see that they're closed. And then we want to think about expressive mouths for Leo or for your book character. Here I've included a few mouths. Still the same thing, that a mouth can either be a shape, an enclosed space, or just a line. A smiley can be just a curved line. If we're feeling anxious, maybe it's sort of a wavy line for the mouth. You can choose a mouth from here to draw. For Leo, for my Leo character, I'm just going to use lines to draw his mouth down. So almost like a little triangle line, a diagonal coming from the center where his nose will be down towards his shoulder, and then the same on the other side. And then to think about expressive noses for Leo, again, noses are kind of difficult. So it's best to just use a line, although you could make a shape. For example, if we connected this very curved line, we would have a circle for a nose. You could certainly use a circle or square or triangle. Since Leo is a tiger, I think I will use a little triangle, upside down triangle shape for his nose. And I'm going to go ahead and add in his big tiger ears. And from here, I would continue adding on Leo's stripes and coloring in. When I think about adding in Leo's stripes, not only am I going to add in the lines for the stripes, depending on your character, you might want to think about some different lines like the ones I have displayed on your screen for fur. Okay, so I'm thinking about Leo's fur and what I might like to add besides just his tiger stripes. I might want to add some fur to add some texture to Leo's body. So ocean wave kind of line like this is a great fur texture for lions or tigers. So is a zigzag line, especially on top of the head. If you wanted to make the cheeks look fluffy, you could bring that zigzag line out to the side. You could even grab your eraser and erase out some of the cheek to make it look all connected like we did with our body. If you were drawing a lamb, there are some loopy lines here that make great fluffy lamb fur. If you're drawing a poodle, anything really fluffy, just looping your line back over itself. Another great texture for a really fluffy animal like a sheep or a dog, these scalloped lines. So now I'm thinking about bringing some lines to the outside. If I wanted Leo's face to look fluffy, I could bring in those scalloped lines out here. That helped him to actually look more like a lion, something you might want to consider in your drawing. So lots of different kinds of lines that we can use to make different textures. Again, my final step is drawing in Leo's stripes and coloring in with any materials of your choosing. A few, maybe a little over a dozen different lines here for you to look at. There are certainly many more. If you do have a computer at home, you can just Google search types of lines in drawing to think about other kinds of lines that will mimic the texture of your book animal's fur. The Friends of the Redwood Libraries look forward to seeing your submissions for their 2022 calendar contest. Remember, the deadline is Monday, August 2nd, 2021. There's a form to fill out on the Friends of the Redwood Library's website to go along with your calendar submission. Thanks for joining me today. Have fun drawing your animals.